Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Mouthing Off with Mike, the only wrestling podcast that told you at the beginning there was one thing that I would never do. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that never say never. Much like CM Punk returning to WWE, hell has frozen over because I'm doing the one thing I said I'd never do, and that's go one-on-one with an actual professional wrestler. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this man that I'm going to introduce here in just one moment, he is very special to me. We both grew up together. He's a good brother. He's, dare I say, a best friend. Dare I say, he's one of the best guys I know around. You've seen him on Mouthing Off with Mike. You've seen him on the Nightcap on Boom Broadcasting. Ladies and gentlemen, today, my guest, who I will be going one-on-one with to interview him, this man weighs 170 pounds, and he resides at his seasonal residency in the Hamptons. He is top notch Dyson Bennett. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the show. As you heard me in the introduction, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by independent wrestler, good friend of mine here at Mouthing Off with Mike. I have Top Notch Dyson Bennett. How are you tonight, Top Notch? Thank you for allowing me the time to conduct this interview.
Well, like you said, we go way back. We're friends, so it's always a pleasure to be on Mouthing Off with Mike.
Absolutely, Dyson. I really appreciate your time here tonight. So I figured let's start the interview off here today with what the people want to know about. They want to know about you. They want to know about your career up to this point. So I want to start off with the early times. I want to start off with your early life. What inspired you to become a professional wrestler, Top Notch?
I saw it when I was, I think, 4 years old. My brother's used to be a huge fan. He was a huge fan of like the Hulk Hogan era and stuff. A little bit of the Attitude Era. So he was watching it like around the time that I was 4. He was in the living room. I just, popped up next to him, was like, "What is this?" And it was actually Gangrel. I think he was facing like D'Lo Brown or somebody like that on SmackDown. And I remember seeing Gangrel's entrance and I was just like mesmerized. I was like, "Who is this guy? What is this? What are you watching?" So from there, he told me. I started, using the internet to look up, WWF.com at the time and stuff, and just kind of go and see all the pictures and videos, highlights. And I was just like, this is a whole new world, that's opened up to me, and I'm all into it.
Absolutely. And when we look at it, obviously we're both fans, we've both been friends for a long time. I would say, I was shocked to know, when we were growing up that you were as big of a wrestling fan as you were, because there was not a lot of people at our high school that were watching professional wrestling, and it's great to hear that didn't discourage you. Now, give me a little bit of insight. You talked about Gangrel and seeing that, and you were captivated. Who inspires you? What wrestlers have inspired you up to this point in your career?
In terms of in-ring, definitely AJ Styles. He's like my favorite of like all time in terms of in-ring competition. Kenny Omega is another huge one. There's so many. Bobby Fish. I'm a huge Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly fan, like Red Dragon, like that style that they bring to the ring. And I'm just talking in ring right now. Now we can go into characters. Undertaker, Kane, Bray Wyatt is like my biggest one. Gangrel is like my very first, who I saw, and he was like the one who kind of got me into like darker characters and stuff like that. So I gravitated towards the Kanes, the Undertakers, those kind of characters.
And that's very interesting you say that, because, as top notch, there are not those elements of supernatural. And where did you, derive top notch from? What is top notch? Who is top notch?
Believe it or not, top notch is who I always wanted to be in high school.
Gotcha.
Top notch is the popular guy. He's the one everybody wants to be, the one all the girls want to be with, all the guys want to hang out with, everybody wants to party with him, but he's too good to party with, people who are beneath him.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you're willing to party with me here, because I am certainly not on the level of top notch Dyson Bennett. Now, top notch, I want to talk a little bit, we talk a little bit about fandom. We talk a little bit about youth and, some of those wrestlers that inspired you. What was the switch that finally flipped for you to decide to go ahead and train at Backbreakers Training Center?
I had always like emulated what I was seeing on TV. They always say like, don't try it at home. I'd never listened to that, so me and my cousin, Mikey, would always be wrestling, like, in my room and stuff like that. Like his favorite wrestler was Brock Lesnar. So he'd always be F5ing me on the bed, all that kind of crazy stuff. And then I met, Chris Betska, my best friend.
Yes.
And he's a super wrestling fan as well. And I mean, from the second I met him and we started going to each other's houses and stuff like that, we were wrestling each other the same way my cousin and I were wrestling each other. You know what I'm saying? So through the years, we get older and, some people wrestling is just a phase. So like they fall out of it and stuff. It wasn't a phase for me and Chris. So we were still growing up, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, wrestling each other. There was a point where, thank God for YouTube, because I found different ways that you could like make a ring, like a makeshift ring and stuff. And so we made a makeshift ring in my basement. Me and Chris, we worked on it and made it so that, it had like the proper cushion, but like, enough of a solid surface where it felt like we were bumping in a real ring, which was just ludicrous. And we trained ourselves basically, like quite literally. We found a UPW like 2 or 3 hour, like 2 or 3 hour videos where it was like John Cena, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, Samoa Joe, all in the UPW training center back in like 2000, 2001, something like that. And like they were literally going through step by step how to wrestle, how to bump, how to do hip tosses, clotheslines, everything. We literally taught ourselves. So then finally we get old enough to actually train. And I'm scouring the internet looking for schools and stuff like that. And not finding anything that I was able to afford or anything that was close by. And I was working at Olive Garden at the time, busing. And dude who I got hired with, me and him are chatting one day. He's like, yo, do you play football? The new Madden came out or whatever. I'm like, nah, man, I'm into like wrestling games and stuff. I play WWE 2K. He's like, oh man, I'm a wrestler. I'm like, dude, what? No, you're not, man. Come on now. Who says that? Like just out of nowhere. You know what I'm
seriously
saying? So I'm like, nah, man, there's no way. He's like, no, bro, seriously. So he shows me like some of his footage, like from some of his matches. And I'm like, dude, what the hell? Like, where do you train? He's like, I train at this place up in Scranton. It's 30 minutes away. Backbreakers Training Centers, $30 a week. I was like, $30 a week? That's tip money right there. I'm making that. I'm making that and more a night. Like, come on now. You know what I'm saying? So emailed the head trainer over there, Justin Glory. Let him know I was interested in training. He told me to come down. Me and Chris went, and I mean, we didn't even have to think about it. We showed up with our $30. He gave us the rundown. He was like, I'll give you guys a tour if you guys want to think about it. Let me know. We were like, no, we're starting today. Like, we're here for training today, and the rest is history.
I love to hear that, Dyson. That is incredible. So talk about a small world, right? Being
Yeah.
a busser at Olive Garden, having a conversation about Madden, progressing into he's a professional wrestler to
Mhm.
here's a training school 30 minutes, from you where you reside, and it's an affordable option. Now tell me a little bit here about the main trainers here at Backbreakers Training Center. Now you mentioned Justin Glory, correct?
Yes. So he
Now,
was the head trainer. And then we had Johnny Toxic, who was another independent wrestler, like in Glory's, time period and stuff like that. He came up together, and then another independent wrestler that he came up with, Brad DeMeo. And so like we were trained by those three in particular, and then he brought some guests in for seminars and things like that, which was really cool, to get those kind of opportunities and stuff. But yeah, those were like the three main trainers.
okay. And now tell us, you go to the facility, yourself and Chris, you've got money in hand, he wants to give you a tour, let you think about it. You're like, no, there's nothing to think about. We know what we're here to do. We know what we want to do. Now,
Mhm.
walk me through that first training session.
It was interesting because it actually wasn't even the first time that Chris and I had stepped into a wrestling ring. We had actually had an opportunity to do a free seminar before we had ever like actually formally trained. We did a free seminar with Mike Quackenbush in
Oh,
Philly, actually.
wow.
So at the Wrestle Factory. And we had got pretty good feedback there because like when he had showed us how to lock up, like we were doing it like we had done it for, years and years, which technically we had, but not, formally, you know what I'm saying? And so we had gotten good feedback there. So it was kind of like, all right, we had taken that feedback that we got. We literally went back to the dungeon, as we called it, just like, Bret Hart and the Hart family. And we just got back to work. So like when it came to that first day of like formal actual training, it was like riding a bike almost. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And what do you feel that, the number one, or I should say, what's some takeaways that you took away from the trainers at Backbreakers that still to this day that you utilize and you keep in the back of your mind and in the forefront of what you present, in the ring?
Um, just making sure that you have a solid foundation. I think Backbreakers was really good at like training wrestlers how to have a solid foundation, not focusing too heavily like on the flashy stuff. Like I have to be honest, I didn't add flashy stuff to my arsenal until after I had graduated from training and was like out of Glory's hands. Because he really wanted to make sure that guys understood like what wrestling was really about, and it wasn't all about like the flashy moves and stuff like that. It's about telling a story, So I think that is the biggest thing that I picked up is make sure that you have a solid foundation, and the key to wrestling is storytelling. So like the flashy moves is great and all, but don't let that be your bread and butter.
Gotcha. Understood. So more so very grounded approach to wrestling training, teaching
Absolutely.
you the ins and outs, the running of the rope, how to properly do a move, how to take a move, how to properly sell, right? That's a big aspect.
Hmm.
Now as we're progressing through training, right? And when we're training with Backbreakers, at that point, walk me from graduation of training to your first ever match.
I had my first match before I actually like graduated. So I had my first match about 2 or 3 months before I graduated, I want to say. And that was a very, very awesome experience. Like I get goosebumps thinking about it just because like I still remember like the feeling of like walking through the curtain for the first time. And like my family was there. So like hearing that, that family pop, you know what I'm saying? And just like everybody going crazy. It was awesome. And my opponent, Skylar Kincaid, who's a good friend of mine, we both were training together. So it was both of our debut. It was a double debut. And so his family was there, my family was there. It was a very awesome experience. Like, yeah,
I
it's
love
kind of
it.
hard to explain because like the adrenaline, that I was feeling and like the feeling of being in the ring surrounded by a crowd of people, the things that we had, executed in the ring for it being our very first match, you know what I'm saying? Like was like everything went how we wanted it to. I couldn't have asked for a better debut.
I love to hear it. Now, if you can, kind of walk the people through that, because I know people love to hear stories of wrestlers having their first match. Now, when did you get the word that you were going to go up against Skylar here, in your first ever match? When was that relayed to you, and how did you guys come together to decide on who wins their first match ever?
So, our trainer, Glory, told us about it. I want to say a month before. So we did have, a little bit of a heads up that we would be making our debut at the next show. The way he used to do shows was like as a pay-per-view party. So he would do it the same day as a WWE pay-per-view earlier in the day. And then later, as the WWE pay-per-view was happening, he had the WWE network. So the fans would all gather around, like big projector. We all watch the pay-per-view and stuff. So, and have like, food and everything. So it was like a really cool environment. So, right coming off the heels of the previous pay-per-view party that we did, he had told us like, all right, you guys are going to be, on the next one, making your debuts and stuff like that, kind of get your stuff ready. And, do you have any ideas and this, that, and the third. And as far as who was going to win, that was all up to Justin, Glory. He, trainer, he's the booker. So
Of course.
the result of the match was out of our hands. But it didn't matter for me, which way it went, just because at that time period, I was just like happy to be in the ring. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
You kind of hear some wrestlers tell that story of just being happy to be there, and like I was in that kind of mode, kind of like a kid in a candy store walking in the candy store for the first time or whatever the case is. So yeah.
I like it. I love to hear it. Now, give the people here some insight. So we're in training, and what year is this about approximately?
So I started training in 2016, and
2016.
yeah, trained for about a year. Then the summer of 2017 was when I made my debut.
Okay. So this is around 2017 here. And now since then, so we have been doing this for quite some time.
Yeah.
And we've seen quite a lot of different promotions that you've worked for. Obviously, let's talk about that first promotion that you've worked for. So coming out of Backbreakers, you transition and you head over to where?
I went to Ace Fusion Championship Wrestling, ran at the time by Draven Blaze, who, funny enough, was Justin Glory's tag team partner for a long time on the Indies. So Draven, gave me my first opportunity outside of Justin Glory's, promotion in school, which was awesome. I'm forever thankful for him, for that. And I mean, I still do work with Draven to this day, but that was the very first promotion that I worked outside of Backbreakers.
And how did that experience go for you from a learning standpoint? What were some big takeaways, coming out of Backbreakers, going to, a promotion that, you know of, you're familiar with the booker because they have that connection to your trainer. But, what was the one big thing that you learned that first time?
Definitely that you have to treat every crowd, like it's your like it's their first time seeing you, because it is, you know what I'm saying? Like not everybody's gonna know you. Some people may know you, you know, from the internet and things like that. Some people may hear about you, but you know, you gotta make people feel, you know, so that they, when you come out, you know, you get a reaction. You know what I'm saying? You got
Right.
to make people feel something, you know. And so for my first couple of years wrestling, I was a baby face, you know, tasked with making people feel, you know,
Mhm.
and smiling all the time, you know what I'm saying? And stuff. But what I what I realized, I actually got an opportunity for a short period of time to work heel um
Mm.
at AFCW. And I got paired with the infamous Harzang is his name. He goes by on the indies, and another guy with the funniest name on the planet, Johnny Papatopoulos.
Shout out.
Shout out to my boy Johnny Pop and Harzang. But together we formed the Zhang dynasty, and we had some pretty good feuds in AFCW with guys like the Puerto Rican dynasty, Armando Soba and Jay. A couple of other guys, super crazy, not super crazy from the Mexicools, but a different super crazy. Actually, super crazy is his promotion. Excuse me, his wrestler's name is O-Dog.
Oh.
And he chopped me so hard in my back one time, I thought I almost died. Like it was crazy, man. O-Dog plays no games, but yeah, we had some good moments, and there I got to learn how to be a character. You know what I'm saying? How to make people feel something. You know what I'm saying? Because you know everybody has that, you know, that a-hole, you know, side of them, you know what I'm saying? But like it's not something that, like, you know, just you display all the time. You know, getting to do that like in front of the crowd and be able to be, you know, that a-hole for once, it
Of
felt
course.
good. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I know I was rambling on a little bit, but I took a lot away from, you know, that those first couple of promotions that I worked for,
Sure,
especially
sure.
especially AFCW.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Super Crazy Pro Wrestling. You know, you've worked
Mhm.
for a handful of different promotions, and you know, we'll kind of go through them. And I guess I'll ask you, you know, give me, you know, one key takeaway that you took away from when you wrestled for some of these promotions. Okay. So, you know, you mentioned Super Crazy Pro Wrestling. You
Mhm.
mentioned that you received the hardest chop that you ever received on your back. How about World All-Star Wrestling? What's one thing that you can tell me about World All-Star Wrestling?
Um, hmm. Expect the unexpected. Um,
Okay.
I got the opportunity with WAW to wrestle Lance Anuai, and yeah, that
Wow.
was that was quite a moment. Um, and that taught me that, like, no matter what, you need to stay ready. You need to always be ready, you know, because anybody could walk through that door and the ball can be in your court to work with them, and it's up to you to make sure that you swim and don't sink, you know. So working with WAW definitely taught me to make sure that I always stay ready.
Always stay ready. Okay, let's take a look here at Northern Tier Wrestling.
NTW.
NT
um
Dub.
yes, NT Dub. um takeaways. Don't trust anybody.
Okay.
I've
Okay.
had I've had some people turn on me in NTW. Partners that I thought, you know, were supposed to have my back and things like that, and they just, you know, kind of went into business for themselves. So definitely don't trust anybody. DTA. And that's a lesson, you know, from Stone Cold. So
Little
I should have known that, you know, but hey, you live and you
so
learn, right?
so the big takeaway, DTA from NTW. is what
Yes,
you're telling
sir.
me.
Yes,
So
sir.
let's fast forward here. I want to talk to the people here about more of your move set. When
Mhm.
you're constructing, your move set as a wrestler. We talked about how, Backbreakers big on the foundation, getting those fundamentals. You can do all the flash that you want, but if you don't
Yeah.
have that foundation, then the house crumbles. So talk to me with, when we look at, some of the moves that you do, and especially with your signatures, right? We've got the Dark Days,
Mhm.
which is the cornerback elbow and Seguri Uranagi combo. And we also have the Star Destroyer, which is your springboard forearm. Now, tell me
Yeah.
what went into the decision for these signatures for your move set.
Um, Versatility. I need
Okay.
to be able to, as a smaller guy in stature, I need to be able to do my moves on anybody. I do have some moves where, I can lift people more my size, but for the most part, my arsenal needs to be something that, or I should say, filled with moves that can be done on anybody from my size to Big Show size. You know,
Understood. Okay. I like
absolutely.
it. So would you describe your move set and your style, as fast, where speed and high flying are your elements of destruction for your opponents, as opposed to kind of that brute strength?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not lifting anybody up really unless they're my size, So for the most part, I deal in a lot of strikes and a lot of high impact moves. Um I've recently adopted a very high impact back elbow, very Bray Wyatt esque, a little bit of my of a tribute to my favorite wrestler. So just trying to incorporate moves where I'm kind of using my body as a weapon and not having to do so much lifting and throwing of other
Sure.
people. I'm throwing myself at them, for maximum impact. So yeah, definitely, definitely more on like the high flying, very quick, you know, agile kind of style is what I'd say I have.
Sure. And let's get into, those finishers, right? Which is the most important move of any professional wrestler at
Yes,
any
sir.
level of the industry. We've got the Revelation, which is a
Hmm.
sit out spine buster. Give me some insight here, with the naming of these moves, top notch. Where'd you come up with these?
So the revelation is a tip of the cap to a fan film that me and Chris made. We used to make Terminator films back when we were younger in like high school and junior high. And our most successful Terminator film that had over 9 million views on YouTube. It got rated in one of like the top 20 fan films on YouTube in like 2013 or 14, something like that, was Terminator Revelation. So I called as a little tip of the cap, had to make the finisher Revelation.
I love that. And also shout out to you guys for coming out, producing, directing, filming your own film back in
Yeah,
junior high school. It's very rare that we talk about the high school days, right? But that is an
hmm.
incredible accomplishment to hang your hat on.
Thank you.
Now tell me about the running knee strike that you have here, the mind eraser, which I feel like kind of self-explanatory, right?
Hmm. So I'm a big Adam Cole fan. I actually left his name out when I mentioned, some of the people who inspire me in ring. I'm a huge Adam Cole fan, and his finisher, the Boom, I think is a very awesome finisher. I needed a way to make it my own though, because I did used to do it how he does it, which is basically
Mm,
like a shining wizard to the back of the head. Um, and then I started looking at Brian Danielson's Busaiku knee
okay.
and like how he does it, the intensity, the form, how he kind of hits it out of nowhere, a lot of times. And I was just like, what if I mesh the two? What if I have the guy, his back is to me, and I Busaiku knee him in the back of the head. Like, hey, that's a good way to knock somebody out, right?
That's
And
fantastic.
I can do it to anybody. So I just I put those two together, and created the Mind Eraser, and the name is another tribute to Bray Wyatt. We could probably get into how much he's inspired me, but if you remember in the Firefly Funhouse, one of his catchphrases was "Erase your mind."
Your mind.
And so that's what I'm doing when I knee you in the back of the head like that. So
wow, just the thought of that alone, the back of my head kind of hurts. So I'm gonna make sure that I stay on top-notch Dyson Bennett's good side here for the foreseeable future. Now, obviously, we've talked a lot. We've talked a lot about the career up to this point. We've talked about the past. We've talked about the current. Now tell me what's in store for the future.
Wouldn't you like to know? Wouldn't you like to know? See, a magician never reveals his tricks, so I'm not going to tell you what's in store for the future, because you'll just have to wait and see what's in store for Top Notch.
That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the why this man is top notch. Dyson Bennett. Now, final question. If you're willing to give me a final question here tonight, Top Notch,
I've got a little bit of time that I could spare.
What is going to be your goal for 2024? And as well, where can the people follow you so they can stay in tune with all things Top Notch and they can come out and watch you wrestle?
Goals for 2024: take over the wrestling business this year, next year, and for years to come. It's not just for 2024. It's for the rest of the time that I'm in this business, which is going to be a long time. So everybody better get used to this face, because they're going to be seeing a lot of it in some of your favorite places, facing some of your favorite wrestlers. So
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Top notch Dyson Bennett. I want to thank you graciously for blessing me with your top notch self here tonight on Mouthing Off with Mike. Make sure, ladies and gentlemen, you follow this man on social media. Make sure you follow him all across the independent wrestling circuit on the East Coast. When can the people see you next, Top Notch?
I will be at Phantom 6 Pro Wrestling on September 8th. I believe that's going to be in Philadelphia, but let me double check on that. I'll have the information out very soon, because flyers and things like that aren't out just yet. But Top Notch Dyson Bennett will be at Phantom 6.
Fantastic. Top Notch, once again, thank you for blessing me with your presence. Ladies and gentlemen, absolutely. I mean, your time is more valuable than my time, that's for sure. I'm going to let you go ahead and handle those top-notch responsibilities. Thank you so much here, sir. We cannot wait to see what's next for top-notch Dyson Bennett.
Mouthing off with Mike. Mouthing off with Mike. Mouthing off with Mike.